Is all prepared then? Excellent. Then it is time for our friend to be invited to the shack. Go fetch him for me, would you? And be gentle, I would not have him damaged, if it can be avoided. I'll join you at the shack shortly. I have a few last things to prepare in the sanctuary.
What is the music of life?
Silence, my brother. Prologue. Good evening, my friend. Oh, don't look at me like that. After all the stories we've shared, you're going to hold a midnight kidnapping against me? I told you that my final tale would be for your ears alone, did I not? You should feel fortunate that I leave your hands free, instead of leaving you tied up. Oh, all joking aside, though, we've been playing a game, you and I. You've been seeking to learn about me, of course. I've given you the entire story. Most of it, anyhow. And in these times between the stories, I have been learning about you. I know who you are as well, and I know why you are learning about me. It's flattering, really. But you truly have no idea what you are fooling around with. So let me make it plain to you in this one last story. So, where were we? Ah, yes. The Guildmaster of the Thieves Guild. I hadn't sought it out, but there I was. I had finished my service to the Daedric Lords. I should have realized there was a reason that the Daedric Lords were watching me so closely. Not to make use of me, or rather, not only to make use of me, but to do so at the perfect time and place for me to learn or realize something. They were adding their own little piece to the finished product, the masterpiece that I would become. Everything I've needed to know about life, I have learned from a Daedric Lord. One finishing step remained, and it would not be the Daedric Lords who did this. They had paid the price, as Ithelia told me, but they were not, it turned out, who had commissioned the deal in the first place. Now in thrall to Lord Nocturnal, I would soon realize that if I wanted true freedom, I would need a way out of that deal. There was only one being left to turn to, where such freedom might be found. The truth of what I am? It is not what the bards would have you believe, because even they cannot believe it. 25-second seed, 4th era, 202. The guild is in good shape these days. After things had settled down and Karliah had been reintegrated back into the guild, I sat back to watch how things operated without my direct involvement. With the skeleton key back where it belonged and the guild's luck seemingly back in force, it turned out that everything was going as well as it could be hoped. That being the case, I left for Solitude to see to affairs there, leaving Brynjolf and Karliah to jointly run things in my stead for the while. I had a great deal to think on. For 3 days, I pondered on what my next moves should be. I thought about the words of both the Herald of Akatosh and the prophecy given by Ithelia, and the more I considered, the more angry I became at what my life had turned into. I think I have been misidentifying what it is I have been seeking all of these months. Yes, revenge is what got me started, but what I was really looking for was power and freedom. Power I have. Freedom I do not. I am enthralled to Nocturnal now, bound to her will and her defense for eternity. There must be a way to avoid this fate, if Ithelia is to be believed, and I do. Then my fate should be nothing at all. This tells me that there must be a way out of it. I simply have to find it. A letter arrived for me this evening from a man in Markarth. There is some urgency to his words, though little of substance, only that there's an artifact I've come into possession of recently that he needs to speak to me about. Perhaps he thought that would be enough to tell me which artifact he's talking about, but given the large number of them I have here in the museum, it tells me nothing. I suppose that means a trip to Markarth is in order. I have a small number of things I've agreed to do in that area, very small indeed, so it suits me to deal with them all at once. I'm not looking forward to visiting the city itself, of course, but the travel will give me more time to think on my longer-term problem of Nocturnal's oath. 26-second seed, 4th era, 202. One of the things I had agreed to was to visit a small place in the Reach called Solyan's Sinkhole. Though it was not made clear in the note that had made me aware of this place, it looks to be a mine of some kind, one that has been overrun with Draugr, of all things. That likely means they have dug into a ruin, and that in turn means there may be some objects of interest there for me. I had agreed to it months ago, honestly, but never found the time to deal with it. Well, today I have made the time and arrived well before noon to deal with their Draugr problem. The sinkhole part of the location's name makes sense to me now, though naming it after what they will no doubt call a local disaster seems a bad play to me. A portion of the Moonstone mine, for that is what this is, did collapse, straight into a Nordic burial site, as I'd expected. At least 2 of the locals are dead, from my own count. I dropped down the hole, my bow ready. The locals need this place cleared out or sealed up, and I certainly won't be able to do that from the mine that they've dug out. There was really little more to do here. The crypt itself was not a large one, though it did feature some kind of fireball throwing system in its main chamber that caused me some small problem. Not a large one, though. Once I'd killed the Draugr in the room, it stopped shooting at me. There wasn't even a great deal in the way of artifacts to collect. Most of it was stuff I've several copies of back at the museum, but should sell for a decent price at least. I informed the owner of the mine that it was cleared and then made my way back to the main road to complete my trip to Markarth. Mathis Valen, a Dunmeri researcher, was the one who had sent me the letter, and his story and request were no small things. I think I may have found someone whose depth of knowledge, at least about one subject, might actually rival that of Aryan. The artifact in question was Keening, the Dwemer dagger I had retrieved for Arneal just before his, unfortunate disappearance. Mathis had heard of this as well, and had the same general opinion of Arneal that I did, that he had been in way over his head. What even I hadn't realized, though, was that just touching the dagger should have killed me. Obviously it had not, and it was this mystery, among others, that had prompted the Mer to reach out to me. Keening is, it seems, one of 3 items that are collectively referred to as the Tools of Kagranak, the items that the Dwemer tonal architect used to tap into the powers of the Heart of Lorcan, and are said to have been directly involved in the same incident that Arneal had been trying to understand, the disappearance of the Dwemer. After discussion with Mathis, I have 3 tasks. The first 2 are to locate Sunder and Wraithguard, the other 2 tools. He's given me leads on both. For the first, his partner is a mage at Winterhold. They've had a recent falling out over these tools, though he wouldn't give me a straight answer as to the nature of that argument. He seems to think I can talk him out of a key that his family has in their possession, one that should open the way to Sunder. Wraithguard's current keeper, though, has recently emerged on Solstheim. Not somewhere I had ever planned to go again, but it should be worth the journey. Those, though, are the easy part. Since the heart they were tied to is long since destroyed, the artifacts are without power, the reason I was able to survive touching Keening. To repower them, he guesses, we would need some of the most powerful Vala stones that the Aelids ever created. I'll worry about that later, though. The other tools need to be found first regardless. If I can power them, even better, but either way, the display for them at the museum will be quite the eye-catcher, I imagine. 27 Second Seed, 4th Era, 202. Vonos Dreloth confirmed for me a number of things about Mathis that I had suspected. Mathis is what some would call a user of people. So long as you are useful to him, he treats you as an equal, though I should note he did insult me several times during our conversation, until he has used you up, then casts you aside as trash. Even so, this pursuit is worth it to me. Vonos quickly realized that if I had been sent for the key, then Mathis already knew where Sunder was, meaning that if I didn't get it myself, he would send others. Rather than deal with that headache, Vonos made me an offer. 1,000 septums for the key, a deal easily made. He's also asked me to locate a ring he misplaced here at the college. Normally not something I would consider, but as he will make some unusual spell tomes available to me in return, I agreed. Perhaps they are worth the time, perhaps not, but I wouldn't want to leave that possibility behind uninvestigated. The ring was in the Arcanium, and took only a few moments to locate and return. The spells he was selling, though, would have made it more than worth my time if it had taken hours to locate. Alteration is not a spell school I paid much attention to, and that is about to change. To be able to shift into another form, to look like a Khajiit or an Argonian at will, wondrous. With all the fame I've gained, it might be nice to be just another person to ignore. I'll have to experiment, of course. I'll have time to practice on my way to finding Sunder. Getting to it may be a bit troublesome, though, as the vault it is supposed to be located in is atop the mountains between Winterhold and Whiterun. Getting up there once for a snow elf shrine months ago had been hard enough. This area might be even harder to scale. Won't know until I get there, of course. Maybe there's even a path of some variety. Starting off across the glaciers, I made use of the time practicing the new spells I'd gotten from Vonos. They are limited in time, of course, but I can see these being of great use to me in the future. A path revealed itself to me, and I began my ascent of the mountains. A shrine to Zrib appeared as I came around a corner at one point. That would have been handy several months ago. and had a few risen skeletons defending it, which I dealt with a few well-placed lightning bolts from the sky. A bit further on, and I had to make use of those same bolts once again. A dragon was sitting atop a word wall, clearly waiting to challenge me. Paarthurnax still hasn't managed to convince many of the Dove, apparently. And when it became clear that I had already been seen, there was nothing for it but to kill it. And the friend it brought in. Not that I haven't taken on 2 of the Dove at a time before, but it does raise the challenge level somewhat. Once both lay dead, I lay claim to a new word of the ice form shout, and then continued on my ascent towards the Dwemer vault Mathis had directed me to. Atop the mountain, at the bottom of a Dwemer lift unlocked with Varnos's key, I saw Sunder. It was there, just beyond my reach, because the fool who had sealed it away had died down here and locked it away behind an energy field. He had also, fortunately, decided that since he was about to die, there should likely be a way to get it out anyhow. He calls the locks the stanzas of Vivek for whatever reason. But since he couldn't escape, I can at least take pleasure in the fact that they can't be far away. They must be here. Assuming they haven't fallen into the lava below, anyhow. I turned around and began my search. It took some time and a bit of dodgy footwork, but I located the 3 stanza spheres in the ruin. 2 of them were in places that made me doubt my own ability to get back to the main platforms, and my own jumping skills. Pipes are not the most secure of foot locations you could find, and how they hadn't rolled into the lava lake before is beyond me. Regardless, I had them. I plugged them into the 3 pillars at the front, and then had to figure out a combination lock. While this is understandable given the amount of power these artifacts are supposed to have, I still found it annoying. The bolts of lightning that struck me when I entered a number incorrectly might well have vaporized someone else, but my long exposure to deadly magics, along with my armor's enhancements, made it almost trivial. Stings quite badly, mind, but very survivable. The combination is linked to Vivek's sermons, that much was clear, but in the end, I just tried every possibility until I found the one that worked. Wounds heal, after all. And I wasn't going to fumble with this over long. With Sunder now in hand, I turned to leave. The next destination will be on Solstheim, which means chartering the Northern Maiden once again. 28-second seed, 4th era, 202. I slept in my manor in Windhelm and then caught the morning tide on board the Maiden to reach Raven Rock. If Mathis is to be believed, and though I doubt his purposes, I do not doubt his information just yet, then the one who knows where Wraithguard is will be found somewhere here. I chose the Corner Club as the smart place to begin my search. Yazur was actually there, either still drinking from the night before or getting a very early start on the new day's drinking. He was very reluctant to talk to me at all, and though his words told me he had never heard of Wraithguard, his body and manner told me that it was quite the opposite. I confronted him and he caved almost immediately, not that it mattered. The item in question had been recently stolen from him. Almost, I would suspect Mathis, but that would not make sense to then send me after it as well. The Mer is a fool, though. Yazur sent me to catch the thief, and honestly expects I'd bring Wraithguard back to him. He promises a huge reward, of course. Maybe I should return it and then steal it back myself. Or maybe just kill the Mer. The way he talks, I have severe doubts about his mental stability, and I'm mostly certain that nobody will care if he vanishes. After all, I spent near a month here and never saw him once. The thief had retreated to Nashardak, the same Dwemer ruin I had once been taken to by the Telvanni wizard while searching for black books. I approached openly, thinking I might be able to bargain with him. Turns out that was never possible. According to a scrap of a journal he left behind after I put 2 arrows into his head, he knew exactly what he had stolen. In a bit of irony, he was planning to sail to Mournhold and sell it to a museum there. I think it will still find its way into a museum, just not the one he'd intended. The real question for me, though, is if I'd bother to return to Yazur or not. Since I have to trek back across the entire island again, I suppose I have time to consider. I had decided to return the artifact and then negotiate with Yazur. That decision was a short-lived one, however. No sooner had I entered the corner club when he all but assaulted me, shouting at me in near incoherence that I'd taken too long, that I must be trying to rob him as well. And then, before I could even get a word in edgewise, he actually did assault me. It did not go well for him afterwards. And I find it telling that not a single patron there lifted a finger to assist him. He flew across the room, the most recent victim of my voice, and crunched into the wall. He died on impact, leaving me the owner of Wraithguard. Pity. He had nothing on him to justify his promise of a great reward, so I would have been out that reward anyhow. As I suspect I might be when I return to Mathis. He seems the type for it. And given his obsession, it certainly would not surprise me. Vanos all but told me to expect it, really. First, though, a return to Skyrim and a search for Aelid ruins in the mountains south of Falkreath. That would be my best course of action here. Mathis may be a problem, but until I've done the rest, he doesn't matter. The Aelids are similar in many ways to the Snow Elves, at least in terms of architectural preferences. There are some differences, I'm told, but many of the aesthetics are similar, especially their love for large vaulting arches. You don't see them often anymore, of course, but there are a few places in the world where they can still be seen with relatively little risk to oneself. One of these is in Falkreath, near the border with Cyrodiil. I expected it to be empty, which I should have known wouldn't be the case. Instead, a trio of spectral defenders were there. They weren't hard to deal with, and in the center of the structure was another skeleton, this one with an Aelid stone on it, the likes of which I've not held before nor seen. Likely one of the stones Mathis said to seek. I can certainly feel the power in it. 29 Second Seed, 4th Era, 202. I stayed at Lakeside last night. My steward has actually been keeping the place up quite well, and I had little choice but to give her my compliments on her work thus far. Once I had settled in, though, and I'd eaten, I couldn't really get around the fact that I'd have to actually talk to her for a short time. Not expecting much, I asked if he knew anything about any Aelid ruins in the Falkreath area. Shockingly, she did. Raya is a native of the area, after all, I suppose. So maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. She knew of 2, actually. One of them is up near Pale Pass, not far from where I'd had to rescue a woman who tried to kill me later on. And the other is in the Rift, not too far from Riften. With clearer directions, I left this morning and arrived at what could be the entrance to an Aelid ruin. I say could be because I've no idea. I've never been in one before. And since I don't see any of those arches, who is to say until I've entered and had a look around? This is clearly no Dwemer ruin, nor is it like any other ruin I have visited in my life. The walls are still almost white, and the arches I knew the Aelids to prefer are literally everywhere. Also obvious to me is that they, like the Dwemer and the ancient Nords before them, have fallen prey to the love of mazes. This place may be a ruin, but it was not built with a straightforward path in mind. I know I've hit one switch already, though I haven't been able to determine what exactly it does. All I can do, it seems, is continue to move through this maze and hope that I find a way forward, or, at the least, not lose track of how to get back out. From the notes left behind by a dead Synod researcher, this place would be the lost city of Oeolalor. Though the writer does not specify that this is an Aelid city, it does make it clear what I already know, that this place was a labyrinth designed to dissuade anyone else from delving further. He didn't get far in his explorations. I feel no sympathy for him whatsoever, and hope that his fellows in the Synod enjoy equal amounts of success, no matter where they are or what they're doing. I continued my own explorations, staying especially alert. I have seen plenty of the same specters I saw at the above-ground ruin yesterday, and I have no intention of following that researcher's lead. It took the vast majority of the day, I think. As usual, it's hard to tell when you're below ground, wandering around in a maze built by a long-dead civilization. But I finally opened 2 doorways with the switches I have been finding. That led to the discovery that the door beyond it was locked in such a way that I was unable to pick the thing, which meant going back into the labyrinth and finding the key. After another hour, I found a submerged portion of the ruin. I thanked my past self for putting an enchantment on my helmet that allowed submerged breathing and, of course, found the key in the deepest, most remote part of that underwater maze. Another bit of time to make my way back to the original door, open it, and be grateful that I go through doors stealthily. On the other side, I found a lich. A full lich. Not that it was hard to deal with. Dragon priests are basically liches, as I found out, but with Dova-given powers. Although it took a few moments, I was never in, really, any danger, I think. The stone I wanted was in the center. Rather than leave the ruin, though, I chose an empty room, set up camp, and enjoyed the warmth of the air. Far better than camping outside the ruin, in the cold. It might be spring, but the weather out there was miserable when I arrived this morning.